Hello everyone. For a while now, I've been telling you the stories behind tweets, just kind of what's going on behind the scenes. How do I arrive at this joke? How do I arrive at what I put out? So I thought what I might go ahead and do now is tell you the stories behind this book. This book has its own content in it, but there's a whole backstory behind each section for why it is the way it is, why I put the chapters in that I did, what crazy convoluted things I had to cut, just how it ended up like this. So I'm going to tell you some of those stories, starting with this. I think I'll start with the cover because, you know, it's on the front of the book, so that seems like an obvious place to start. I originally wasn't going to call this book Bare Minimum Parenting. Well, I was going to try some variant of it. So the inspiration of this, kind of the original spark, was that Tiger Mom book. I never read it, but it was all over the news at one point about this mom who went above and beyond and she did everything extra to raise this super kid who could like play the violin at concert levels and got into Harvard and became the first person to land on Mars or something. I don't know. I didn't follow her career. The point is this mom went above and beyond to do all those things. And I thought, what's the opposite of a tiger mom? What about a bear dad, a bare minimum dad? I scrapped that title idea real quick because calling a guy a bear means something entirely different. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That just was not the target I was going for with this book. So I kind of expanded it to Bare Minimum Parenting, the ultimate guide to not quite ruining your child. And you'll notice on here, because you have eyes and can read, that it's a text-based cover where we cross out and hijack a different book and write Bare Minimum on there with red letters. So how covers come about? You know, I didn't design this myself. There's a team, and so I was on a conference call with the publisher and the graphic designer, my agent and everybody, and we're pitching ideas back and forth for what kind of cover would go on this book. And the idea that kept coming up was to show an example of what they interpreted as bare minimum parenting. What's somebody doing as little as possible? And what they kept coming up with was like, just people being super lazy parents. Like a dad sitting down with a beer with his kid in the swing and he has a string attached to the swing and he's pulling it. I think that's one of the images that kept coming up. And that's not really what this book is about. So I pushed real hard to get away from that because this isn't a book about being a bad parent or a neglectful parent. It's a book about being a great parent in a more efficient way. It's a book about how you're doing awesome the way you are now, and everybody who says you're not, who says you need to do more, they're wrong and they need to shut up and mind their own business. That's the whole premise of this book. So that's why we ended up going with the hijack cover. So you've got the fake overachieving title underneath, Superior Parenting, and then we cross it out and hijack it with Bare Minimum. And the ultimate guide to raising your child, we changed to Not Quite Ruining. So that's really the line where we end up going with that. But I think you'll discover as you read it, I mean the 1% of you who buy this book, that it's really saying that you are a great parent. I'm not putting this out there to subpar parents, to neglectful parents. This is a book that says that what you're doing right now is going to turn out somebody who's more or less a functional adult. And what that tiger mom who raised her kid to play the violin and go to Harvard and be the first person on Mars, her kid's probably going to end up more or less average too. She might earn a little more money or a little less money or whatever, but you know what? We're all kind of the same when we get to be adults anyway. So if what we do and what they do turn out the same kind of kid, but if the way we do it takes less energy, doesn't that actually make our way a little bit better? Not that you would ever say that because you're a good person. You would never judge some other parent. So I wrote a book to do it for you, to talk about how everybody who's been parent shaming you, everybody who's been saying that you aren't enough is wrong, and that you are doing the exact right amount. And if anything, you can take it easier than you are now. So that's why we went with this text-based cover rather than a picture of somebody just doing a terrible job parenting. And then down here in the corner, I think my favorite part of this, when they pitched it through, they sent several examples in several different color schemes. And when I saw it down here, this is what sealed the deal for me. Down there, they put James Breakwell, PhD, and they crossed out PhD. And that line right there, that one line, well, I guess it's like 3 or 4 back and forth red lines. That really sums up what this book is about. This book is the opposite of an expert critique. This book is just coming from a place of common sense and experience and a little bit of self-loathing. That's where I live. That's my home. I've never once in raising my kid thought to myself, boy, I wish I had a master's degree in child psychology, or I wish I had a PhD in early childhood development. And quite frankly, the people I've run across like that, the professors who raise kids, those kids never turn out normal. And not a good way. Not like, man, they're so abnormal, they're brilliant. It's like, boy, I kind of wonder if they're going to be able to function in society. Which in the long run, they probably will. It all kind of averages out. That's the whole premise. They'll get to the same point we do. But their kids are going to get there by taking an extra 10 hours of tutoring a week and going to 65 extracurricular activities. And my kids are going to get there by being kids. That's what the book's about. So that's why the cover is the way it is. That's why the title is what it is. And that's why this part right here, that one little line, is my favorite part of the entire book. So I'll go ahead, if it's okay with you guys, not that you have a veto or anything, but I'm probably going to go through in future videos and just kind of hit up each chapter, because most chapters, how they happened is I would see one parent do one ridiculous, over-the-top thing about being a super parent, and I would think to myself, oh, that's a chapter of my book. And I did that for 15 chapters, and boom, I had a book. So that's how it all came about. So stay tuned. In the coming days, I'll go through that as well. Thank you for joining me.